I chose not to invite my siblings to my wedding, as none of them had included me in theirs. I come from a family of 5 siblings, 4 of whom are older and married. Despite our close relation, I was not invited to any of their weddings. Each one opted for a child-free ceremony, and though I had hoped my position as their sister would make me an exception, that was never the case. The first wedding was that of my eldest brother, Leonardo, when I was 10 years old. Though I understood the child-free policy, it still deeply saddened me to be excluded from such a significant occasion, especially as I admired his bride. When my second brother, Fernando, married 2 years later, I was 12. Again, I wasn't invited, despite being a well-mannered child. I felt increasingly invisible. At 15, when my sister Beatrix was engaged, I was hopeful. Initially, she didn't plan a child-free wedding. But under family pressure, she changed her mind. When I pleaded with her to make an exception for me, given my age and our relationship, she refused, citing fairness. I was devastated. I expressed my frustration, which led to my parents grounding me for 6 months. By the time my youngest brother, Gustavo, got married when I was 17, I had grown indifferent. I anticipated not being invited and didn't ask. Predictably, I was excluded, while my cousin, who had just turned 18, was welcomed. I simply sent Gustavo a brief congratulatory message and disengaged entirely. My parents were displeased with what they perceived as a lack of enthusiasm, but I remained withdrawn, choosing to spend my time with my then-fiancé. Now, as I prepare for my own wedding, I made the decision not to invite any of my siblings. Given the precedent they set, it felt only appropriate. Once they realized they weren't invited, they began messaging in the family group chat. Beatrix inquired about a possible mailing error. Fernando directly asked why he hadn't received an invitation. I chose not to respond immediately. The next day, my mother called, clearly upset. She demanded an explanation. I calmly replied, "They didn't include me in their weddings." I thought it only fair to do the same. There was a moment of stunned silence before she erupted. She accused my fiancé of influencing me, claiming I had changed. I nearly laughed. Her tendency to blame others rather than reflect inward was all too familiar. I responded, "This isn't about him, Mom. This is my choice." They didn't consider me important enough to include in their most meaningful moments, so I don't see why they should be part of mine. She ended the call abruptly. The messages continued the following day. Leonardo sent a particularly dramatic one. "Mariana, I know you were hurt about not being invited to my wedding, but you were just a child. It wasn't personal. I thought you would have moved past it by now." I was stunned. After years of being left out, they now expected me to simply forget? I replied, "It's not about moving on. It's about fairness. If I wasn't important enough to be at their weddings, why should they attend mine?" Leonardo replied almost instantly, calling me a spoiled brat and claiming that family should transcend past resentment. I couldn't help but wonder, where was that familial closeness when I was a young girl begging to attend their weddings? Things escalated when my parents arrived at my home unannounced, clearly intent on persuading me to change my mind. The focus of their concern was not my feelings but public perception. My mother asked, "What will people think of us, Mariana? What kind of person doesn't invite their own siblings to their wedding?" It was clear. Image mattered more than introspection. I tried once more to explain that this decision stemmed from years of exclusion. My father interrupted, calling me childish and selfish. That was the final straw. I said firmly, "Childish and selfish?" I was a child when I asked to attend their weddings, and I was called dramatic. Now, as an adult, they want to rewrite the past and act like nothing happened? I won't allow it. They are not invited to my wedding, and if you continue treating me like this, neither are you. The room fell into silence. My mother looked as though she might faint, while my father's face turned a deep shade of red. Neither of them said another word. They simply walked out and slammed the door behind them. In the following weeks, they continued to reach out, calling me spiteful and ungrateful. My siblings accused me of tearing the family apart. Beatrix attempted a more emotional appeal, saying her children, my nephews, had been looking forward to the wedding and that it was cruel to exclude them. This time, I did not respond. On my wedding day, I felt something I hadn't in a long time: peace. The ceremony was everything I had hoped for: simple, joyful, and surrounded only by people who truly cared for me. As I danced with my husband, I realized I had finally taken control of my life. I had chosen myself. Later, I learned that my mother had organized a separate dinner with my siblings on the same day, a quiet act of protest. I found it petty. They could comfort themselves with whatever narrative suited them, but it didn't change the truth. For the first time, I had drawn a boundary and stood by it. That, to me, was freedom. In the days that followed, I hoped for closure. The wedding had felt like a turning point. Everything had been beautiful, heartfelt, and genuine. I hadn't missed anyone. But peace, it seemed, was temporary. Soon, the comments began to appear in the family group chat, passive-aggressive and thinly veiled. Beatrick was the first. "We saw some pictures of your wedding. Why did those flowers look so basic?" I tried to dismiss it, but irritation began to grow. Then Fernando chimed in. "And the venue, it looked more like a backyard party than a wedding. You could have asked us for help." That's when I realized they had accessed photos through mutual friends. I had deliberately excluded them from that moment, and yet here they were, critiquing something they had no right to judge. Still, I said nothing. The breaking point came when my mother called. There was no greeting, no concern, just criticism. "Mariana, what was that wedding?" I saw the pictures and honestly, I expected more. "It looked so plain, not like your siblings' weddings. That dress, you deserved something more elegant. Why wasn't it in a church? Your sister's wedding was much more refined. This one didn't reflect our family at all." For a moment, I was stunned, not because I agreed, but because I was still capable of being shocked by her audacity. I spoke slowly, coldly. "The only thing that wasn't worthy, Mom, was you. You weren't invited. You had no place there. And yet you feel entitled to criticize what you had no part in. If you didn't like it, that's fine. I didn't plan it for your approval." She bristled. "You're being selfish, Mariana. Do you think you can just erase your family? That's not normal. You've always been resentful, and now you're punishing us for it. What did we do to deserve this?" I lost what remained of my composure. "You want to know what you did? You excluded me. Over and over again. I was never invited to your most important moments. I was never important enough. And now that I've finally created something for myself, you think I should act like none of that ever happened? That's not love. That's hypocrisy. The truth is, the only thing that could have ruined my wedding was your presence." There was a long silence. Then, in a low, bitter voice, she replied, "You're ungrateful. We did everything for you. And this is how you repay us? Abandoning your family for a man you barely know. One day, you'll regret this." I hung up. I had no energy left to argue with someone who had never tried to understand me. But the conflict didn't stop there. My siblings, likely encouraged by my mother, began sending messages one after another. Beatrick wrote, "You've destroyed this family, Mariana. Congratulations on pushing away everyone who ever loved you." Fernando, always dramatic, added, "I hope your new husband is worth it, because you've given up everything for him." I sat with my phone in silence, reading their words while my husband quietly sat beside me. He didn't say anything, but he knew it hurt. After a few minutes, I exited the family group chat. I didn't respond. It wasn't worth it. In the days that followed, more calls and messages poured in, none of which I answered. Not long after the wedding, my mother appeared at my doorstep, unannounced. I refused to let her in. "Mom," I said calmly through the door, "there's no point in this conversation. You've made a habit of criticizing and belittling me. I refuse to welcome that back into my life." From outside, her voice rose sharply. "Family is forever, Mariana. You can't just eliminate us because you're hurt." I opened the door just slightly, enough to meet her eyes. Family should mean support, respect, and love, not manipulation and constant judgment. If that's all you have to offer, then yes, I can remove you from my life. And that's exactly what I intend to do. I closed the door on her words and the noise that followed. I didn't listen. My decision had already been made. Since that day, I've severed all contact. The rare attempts they've made to reach out were filled with more of the same accusations, guilt-tripping, and blame. But I no longer have the energy or the tolerance for any of it. Now, my life is centered around peace. My husband and I have built something honest and safe, a relationship grounded in mutual respect, something I never had within my family. Looking back, I feel no guilt. Leaving that environment behind was the best decision I've ever made. For the first time, I'm living a life that is quiet, joyful, and truly mine. I don't miss them. I don't feel obligated. I am free. And recently, something extraordinary happened. I discovered I was pregnant. When I saw the positive result, tears filled my eyes. My husband pulled me into his arms and whispered, "We're going to raise this baby with so much love, they'll never question it." From the very beginning, we agreed our child would only be surrounded by those who genuinely love and respect them. That meant my biological family would have no role in their life. But as always, news travels. I'm still not certain how they found out, perhaps through a distant relative or a mutual friend, but soon, the messages began. The first was from my mother. "Mariana, I heard you're expecting. Regardless of everything, we're still your family, and the baby deserves to have their grandparents." I didn't respond. My husband and I had already made our decision. This wasn't about vengeance or cruelty. It was about protection. I would not allow my child to be exposed to the same toxicity I endured for so many years. Shortly after, the messages from my siblings followed. Beatrix tried her usual emotional tactics. "Congratulations on the pregnancy, Mariana. Despite everything, we're still siblings. I know you'll need support. We're here for you and the baby." Fernando was blunter. "Hold on to your grudge if you must, but at least let us meet our nephew. He deserves to know his family." I read each message in silence, my husband at my side. He gently took my hand and said, "You don't owe them anything. This is our time, our life. Let's protect it."
He was right.
A week later, my mother came to our house again unannounced. When I opened the door and saw the expression on her face, a mix of regret and self-pity, I felt a fleeting ache in my chest. But I didn't let it sway me. Before she could speak, I said,
"Mom, don't do this."
"You are no longer a part of my life, and you will not be part of my child's." She protested, tears already forming. "Mariana, please. You can't shut us out. This baby is part of us, too." My voice was calm, but resolute. I will not allow my child to experience what I went through. I want them to grow up in a home filled with love, not judgment, not manipulation. That's something you and the rest of the family never gave me. She began to cry, but I knew those tears were not born from true remorse. They came from losing control. I closed the door, gently but firmly. It hurt, but it was necessary. Since then, the messages have continued. The calls, the attempts at contact, the emotional appeals. None of it reaches me anymore. My focus is now on the life growing inside me, on planning a future with intention, love, and care. Every day, my husband and I prepare for the arrival of our child, excited and united in our decision to create a different kind of family. Some might call it selfish, this act of distance. But for me, it is an act of protection. I will not allow history to repeat itself. I will not let old wounds bleed into new beginnings. I am at peace with the path I've chosen. My child will grow up in a home where love is unconditional, boundaries are respected, and voices are heard. My family may continue to blame me, to call me cold or cruel or distant, but I no longer care. For the first time in my life, I have control over my world, and over the world I'm building for my child. And that is freedom.